Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I'm going to be talking about compositions, and I'm going to be drawing a leaf. So exciting. So I'm doing one from Art Cherry Tree, and you can see it has some like transparent portions that are absolutely beautiful. Cherry trees look so stunning in the spring. Ours have beautiful white flowers and then obviously the delicious fruit. But in late October, the leaves start yellowing and browning and all the things in between. And this is where the magic happens for drawing, because look at all those really rich colors. I see 2 greens, I see at least 2 to 3 browns. Very pretty. So, compositions. And this is something, again, that you can pick up books at your local library. Drawing books, art books, creating books, photography books. Even if you're doing drawing, photography books have a lot of sections and information about composition and practicing. Again, making a viewfinder to help you sort of figure out what you want it to look like on the page and how it's angled. These help. Making thumbnails, you know, do you want it bottom up? Do you want it top down? See, one top down, one bottom up. Do you want it from the side? Do you want it coming off of a branch? And this leaf's kind of big, so it would go off the page. Maybe there'd be, you know, some other things for view and interest. These are the labels. So thumbnails, really quick. You saw how fast that was, not just a warm-up drawing exercise, but for figuring out composition. Getting in the practice of doing thumbnails helps greatly. So if you're thinking about doing, I mean, this is just a single subject matter. It's one leaf. So obviously these 3 make a whole lot of sense, but doing 25 to 30, doing thumbnails for 20 minutes instead of, you know, I did 4, it took, what, 2 minutes? Doing tons and tons of thumbnails and then doing it every day. So picking one subject matter, cat, you could go through the animals, cat, dog, elephant, giraffe, whatever, or you could do person sitting, person standing, you could do building, silo, barn, like a different subject matter every day, tree, shrub, branch. You could just go through everything and then do 30 thumbnails every single day, and you will get better at compositions, at layout, at seeing what you like, at seeing what looks more dynamic on the page, seeing what you prefer. Because some of it's going to be like, yeah, that looks good, yeah, that looks good, but what do you prefer? Do you prefer it hanging down or do you prefer it coming up? When you're curating your sketchbook and you're drawing more than one leaf on different pages, do you want them all to be the same sort of composition? Or do you want them all to look a little bit different? Maybe come from different angles and stuff. This is how you get better at drawing compositions. Another thing is looking at books, art books, seeing how people curate their art. Again, head to the library, see how people place and put their drawing on the page. Really great books for compositions are cookbooks. Cookbooks are really, really great. Even though it's just like food and plates and things stacked. Cookbooks are, every single page is thoughtfully curated for a composition that is appealing to the eye. So when they took the photo, you know, instead of taking a picture like one brownie, if it's on a vertical page, it's probably 3 stacked up. And they're not perfectly aligned. And the colors. So if it's a brownie, what color plate and what color background do they have? Check out cookbooks. Another thing is visit museums, display cases. There are people that do display cases for a living. I took 2 classes of display case design in college. I don't know if they were upper or lower. Doesn't matter. Anyway, my teacher did display cases for a living and was a retired teacher. And the way those are curated and how thoughtfully every single item is placed and put in is a very specific composition. So check that out. How are things, the foreground, the background, the color, all the choices. He did beautiful, he had vintage toys, like Christmas vintage toys that he would do at Christmas time, and displaying those, it was amazing. So looking at how other people put things together, how things are curated, even like hopping on Instagram. And sometimes when somebody goes to show their piece of art, they will have their art and they will have some other items in there, maybe a pencil, maybe a candle, a cup of tea. That is a composition. That whole thing all together. It's not just the piece of art or what they're drawing. They're telling a little bit of a story. I had some tea. These are the pencils I used. It's on this really pretty cloth, which brings out the lines in this subject matter. Like it could reinforce the emphasis, or it could be just a bright color that complements using color wheel. Like really look how professionals and folks lay out their art and their pictures and all their stuff on Instagram. The same with Pinterest. If you're looking up, I don't know, giraffe art, sometimes it's just a picture on a wall, but sometimes it's placed in different areas, and those areas are to highlight the art and bring it out. That is all part of a composition. So it's not just what's on the page that's being composed, but what's around it as well. And that can help with sales and marketing and promotion. And if you're going to do a book of your art, like there's so many ways and little tiny things to look at. Again, photography books, I can't stress those enough. I feel like if you draw or paint and you're only sticking to drawing and painting books, you're missing a lot of stuff. So like rule of thirds, the golden ratio, some of this stuff that's talked about in photography can be really, really helpful when it comes to drawing and art. This is a really big leaf. I went for the gusto. This is going to be half ink, half colored pencil. And I am here for the pokiness of it all. But it's practice. It's practice. So if you're, sitting around and you're like, I don't like my compositions. I draw buildings or I draw blank and I just don't like how they're positioned, how they're sitting on the page. It's time to go back to thumbnail sketches and start doing those every day as an exercise. And do the same building over and over and over, or the same person in different poses. They're sitting, if they're reading, if they're jumping, if they're holding a weapon, like whatever dynamic thing you wanna do. But really, 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 and if you carve out like 5-10 minutes a day, you will get better at it. And sometimes if you're just bored with what you're doing and it's not as interesting or relevant, or it's just not grabbing you like it used to, this is where compositions shine. Because when you do the same composition over and over and over and over, I mean, I did 4 of one leaf, but imagine what this would look like if I forced myself to do 20. How weird would this leaf look by composition 20? Because there's only so many ways I can lay it out like this, and then I'm done. Like it's vertical, it's horizontal, it's diagonal in every direction. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4. And then I start swirling it and bending it and twisting it and to get a different single one. And one of those in the 20, probably towards 18 or 19, is going to be so strange and something I've never done before. That's going to be the one that excites me the most. Granted, I'm just doing this as a botanical challenge, so my emphasis is on how it actually looks. But if I wanted to do something creative and something unique, I would have to bypass all these. These are the stock standard. These are the first 4 that come to my mind. This isn't the magic. the creativity and doing something wholly unique and niche and just exciting that I literally have never done before is gonna be close to composition 20. And if I kept going to 30, I would really have to stretch my ability to come up with something for every single one to make it wholly unique. So get in the practice of that. And again, it doesn't have to be if the quantity is daunting in the beginning, you could have it be timed. So I'm going to do composition sketches for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5, 10, and habit stack it. If you are in the habit of, I don't know, getting up and standing there while you're making your tea or your coffee, have a little sketchbook nearby, and you can doodle that while it's percolating, while it's steeping, and just sort of knock it out of the way real quick during the day, and then you're done. It could be the first thing you do in the morning. It could be right before you go to bed. I'm gonna have to get some of these lines on here. You habit stack it to something else, and then it'll be something that you remember to do. Your drawing challenge could be composition thumbnails every single day for 30 days. And again, if the quantity is just kind of daunting, or you're just like, I don't think I can do that, then have it be timed. And just keep going. Keep going with your favorite subject matter. Keep going with things you want to improve. Keep going with things you've never done before. This is how you get better at compositions. And it could be going back through your art and looking at art you've already created and pulling that out and grabbing a extra sheet of regular paper. It could be scrap paper. It doesn't even matter. They could be quick little doodles on the back of receipts or junk mail. And if I were to draw this again, 4 to 8 new thumbnails of composition of cat in a garden, like whatever your subject matter is. And then really look at those and see, okay, are any of those more interesting, more dynamic? Do they lead your eye to the cat? Do they lead your eye more to the garden? What do you want people to look at? What is your emphasis? What's the most important part of the subject matter? Is it the cat in the garden, or is it more the flowers and the cat's kind of an afterthought? What's the most important part? And really ask yourself some of these questions when you go to create. I'm doing single subject matter, like it's just a leaf. So my emphasis is a leaf. The leaf is the most important thing. That's where your eye is going to go. That's where it's going to stay. But if I was doing like a leaf on a branch, would I want my branch to be super bright, super detailed, or would I want it to be a little soft and fuzzy as it blends into the background? Like, we get the context that the leaf is still on the branch, but then we also get that it's not the most important thing. So really, really start to think about these things, and this is literally how you get better at them. So if you want to get better at compositions, or you want to try compositions, or it's something you've been thinking about and you weren't sure how to get started, start with thumbnails. Absolutely. It's a great warm-up exercise that just strengthens your drawing. I'm going to go to the tippy top of this guy. And the stronger your compositions are, the more dynamic they are, the better your art becomes. For if you're doing gifts, or if you're selling, or you're just doing this as a hobby, like whatever your main motivation is, ask yourself what you want your goal to be. So I know it's towards the end of 2024, but that doesn't mean you have to wait till January to start a new thing. January can be arbitrary. You can just be like, okay, I'm starting October 28th, and for 28 days, for 30 days, 50 days, I am going to do a thumbnail sketches every day. And I'm going to get better at X, Y, and Z. Write down your goal. What is your goal? What is it for? Who is it for? Is it just for hobbying? Is it just for because you enjoy it? Do you want to make a career out of art? You got to work on all the things, all the elements. me start pulling out some colors here. Yep, this is how you do that. Everything boils down to practice. And I know it's not like, well, that's not an easy answer. It's not. It's a time-consuming answer. It's a realistic answer. It's the reality of the situation. Like, very few of us are just born knowing exactly what to do and how to do it when it comes to art. Like, prodigies. Those are kind of who those people are. So I have Carmine, I have a Van Dyke, I have the Pine, I have the Earth Green Yellowish. I need to figure out this lighter color. I think I'm gonna do this one. This sort of raw umber, really pale. Yep, those are the colors. Okay. And that looks like it has a little bit of yellow. A little bit of yellow. So I am going to grab, I don't know. I want to say this is Naples Ochre. For a little bit of that. Right there. Okay. So it helps to have a goal and then chunk it and split it up. So depending on what your goal is, reverse engineer it. So if your goal is, I want to be able to show my art in a gallery, in a museum, I want to sell my art, whether it be on like Imprint, Redbubble, like, you know, a product reproduction site, or something like art.com. What is your end goal? And then reverse engineer that, start splitting it up into steps. Okay, before I can be shown in a gallery, I have to have at least 30 professional pieces or 10 professional pieces to show somebody who works there to get accepted in. So to get those 10 professional pieces, I need to have at least one professional piece. Now, do I have those 10 professional pieces, or is that something I have to work towards? And if they're not what anybody is accepting or what anybody's currently interested in, what are they currently interested in? Is that a subject matter you're willing to do? You know, gallery shows can be themed. October has a lot of spooky stuff. Is it a political theme? Is it the local area that's a theme? Like, you really have to go through and figure out how to apply your art to that. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't have 10 professional pieces. I have 5 okay ones. How do I get those looking professional? What would strengthen this? Is it subject matter? Is it composition? And then that's where you hone in on, okay, I need to get better compositions, to get a better piece, to have the 10, to be able to apply to a gallery, to get accepted. You see how that was all broken up and reversed? Again, that's a very specific example, but if it's just, I want to be on this webpage and I want to show my art, or I just want more followers, or I just want to monetize this platform, I don't know, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, you have to have really good professional pieces. That's what gets people's eye. You have to learn hashtags. You have to learn photography for taking pictures of your pieces for posting. Like, you have to break it up into the individual steps, work on each step, and then each step will come towards the whole. It's like doing a drawing challenge and trying to fill a sketchbook. It has to be every single day. It's a very slow process. It takes 31 days for me to fill a sketchbook. I'm not going to be able to do that in a week. So it's step by step by step, and taking the time and being thoughtful and going through the work, and compositions strengthen art. So do you want your subject matter to be on the center of the page? Do you want it to be in the bottom right third? Like, really figure out, even if you're doing a single subject like this, what looks the most interesting to you? What is that? There is something. Oh, my neighbor. Hold on. Okay. This video might get clipped a little short. The tree trimmers are here. We have legitimate trees where I live. We have some of the biggest trees in the world. When a branch falls from one of our trees, they call them widow makers, because it sounds louder than a gunshot, and it shakes, and it's absolutely wild. So you have to make sure where I live that you're responsible with the plant life in your yard. Yeah, you have to hire climbers It's 5 to 10,000 every time they come out to trim our trees. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy to maintain and care for huge, huge trees. So that is what they're doing. That is the noise in the background, and I apologize. There is nothing I can do about it, but just compliment my neighbors for making sure that everybody's safe and protected and nobody gets hurt. Because that's the main thing with having huge trees, is you have to care and maintain them, which is why a lot of people don't want to live and have huge trees in their yard like we have, because they understand like how much work and how expensive that is. We like it. We like big trees. We buy houses and homes looking at our history of what we've purchased and where we've lived based on the trees in the backyard. Like, does it have a huge tree in the backyard? Sign us up. We spend a lot of time in our yard, so. Okay. And then this is going to be, this side's going to be in ink. So, yeah. I wish I could like photograph and show you what the climbing and the trimming of the trees looks like. It's fascinating, but I don't have permission to do that, and that's kind of weird because they didn't sign up for that in their job. It looks amazing though. Just trust me on that one. Okay, compositions. So I'm telling you to hit your local library, check thrift stores, garage sales, estate sales, swap meets. Ask your neighbor like what kind of books they have. I could consider doing like a cookbook swap, like I'll trade you books. Like, you don't even have to leave your yard. I mean, if you're like a college student, check your dorm, check your neighbors. Chances are they have at least one book with photographs, and look how everything is laid out in those photographs. Every single book you go to see that has pictures in it is a wealth of information and can be helpful in curating sketchbooks, in putting together compositions, in strengthening what things look like. All that is super, super helpful. So that's what you want to do. That's the goal. To get better is to figure out how to lay things out so they're visually appealing, or so they're not visually appealing. That's a design choice. That is, you know, artistic license. If you are doing subject matter that folks consider, I don't know, dark or disturbing, I'm using my isograph here, then you don't want a comfy looking composition. You don't want it to be something that makes the eye comfortable or leads it around in a pleasing way. You want the whole thing to be disturbing. So if you're trying to make a statement about something that's important to you, or something you're seeing that you don't like, or you just like doing dark macabre art, there are buyers for that. That's a niche. That's absolutely a thing. You want everything to be disturbing, not just the subject matter. You want it on the page in a way that disturbs the viewer. You want everything to be just left of comfortable. So consider having compositions that make people uncomfortable. Okay, consider scrunching things on the page. You know, maybe the page can't handle the subject matter. Consider things, I'm trying to think, artists like Geiger, some of the folks that do scary movies, look at scary movie posters. A lot of those are really uncomfortable. What did I do? I think it was Silence of the Lambs. I redid that one a little bit. I kind of aged up the person with the moth. I like moths, I like insects, so that was an easy choice for me. But again, movie posters of really scary, gory, you know, slasher films, whatever they are, and look at their color choices. They use a lot of black, there's a lot of red. It's reaffirming the blood. It's bright, it's an anxiety color. It does not soothe. And then look how it's presented on the movie poster. Is it done in such a way that you only see a part of the person's face? Like, the faces are very dynamic. And so if you want to make somebody uncomfortable, you can either use like a facial expression. You can stretch so it doesn't look quite right, quite human, you know? There's certain facial expressions, there's certain smiles that sometimes can make people really uncomfortable. And if you only show a portion of that because it's cropped or cut off because of composition, that tells a story. Like they're hiding something, they're being sneaky. All that's compositional choices. And that reaffirms your subject matter and what you're working on. So to get better at compositions, really do the thumbnail sketches, do the practice. Again, look at, be inspired by what's around you, you know, in the movie theater. Maybe you just go online to like, what is it, Rotten Tomatoes, where they rate different movies and TV shows, and look at the different posters and sort of the main image for the movie, because that's, they say don't judge a book by its cover, right? But 100% people do. People judge movies based on what the image looks like on the front, who the actor, whoever it is, and really think about all the very specific choices that are made. Oh, I kind of want that right there too. For that poster, for that film, for that book. Again, look at the book covers. Murder mysteries often have like sort of a dark, gloomy, seedy, dirty, like if it's depending on the murder mystery book, a lot of them they're not super bright and colorful unless it's like a cozy mystery, and that's kind of how you can tell them apart. So there's a lot of information to be had on like posters and covers of things, and there's literally like accounts, there's web pages, there's Instagram accounts that are just solely book covers, and that is something that make great thumbnail sketches. So pick some of your favorite books, so there is sort of an emotional attachment there, something that will motivate you to keep going, and redesign the book cover, and you can make them really small thumbnails. So if you're saying that I don't know. My mom's favorite book is Beloved. So, Toni Morrison. She doesn't draw, she sews. She's a fabric textile artist. She did sort of a quilt that was to Beloved, and I think it was donated. It was part of like a library funding thing. Anyway, what I'm saying is you could totally do small thumbnails of your favorite books. It could be a childhood book, you know, something you grew up with. It could be just something meaningful to you, and that's what's going to keep you going, is if there's some sort of sentimental attachment. It really helps. It could be a book you own and you hate the cover. I have a few favorite books, and I think the covers could be much more dynamic or interesting. That's just me. I mean, they don't have to be published online. They don't have to be sent to the author like, hey, this should be this. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be something where you work on compositions and you're like, oh, this would be infinitely more interesting if this cover, you know, looked like this. And you can do really small ones. They don't have to be big. I mean, you could go as small as postage stamp, which is a, gosh, it was the ducks. Okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. But the USPS, so the United States Postal Service, had a stamp drawing competition where the winner would get their own stamp and they would win money and recognition, and it was a duck. And I remember, oh, I don't know what year that was. Is that 18? It's either 2017 or 2018, and I saw the winners and they look good. It's kind of one of those things, so I have a design degree, I have a graphic design degree, and when you're doing logos, I had a logo class, I had several I think, it has to look good 3 feet by 3 feet, and it has to look good 1 inch by 1 inch. So you think about all the uses of a logo, like on a shirt in embroidery versus on a letterhead versus on a business card versus a, oh gosh, what are those called? Those huge signs on the side of the highway. You know what I'm saying? Like a huge advertisement poster, a billboard, sorry. So think of it, would it look good as a billboard? Would it look good on a business card? And what you want to do is you want to do thumbnails that could be business card size. They don't, that's the thing about thumbnails and composition, is they don't have to be super, super huge. It doesn't have to be, you know, A5 size and you fill the whole thing. No, that's legitimately you creating a piece of art. It could be really, really small. You could pre-grid your page. You could do this on like a graph paper or dot grid paper, like bullet journal, whatever you have readily available, and you can make them smaller. You could do 1 inch by 1 inch or 2.5 by 2.5 centimeters. They can be super tiny, or they can be a little bit bigger if you're doing like landscapes. You see a mountain range in the background, you have the ocean in the middle ground, and you have like the dunes or the land in the foreground. And how do you want to show those 3 layers? And then do, you know, 5 to 10 thumbnails, and they could be quick sketches. It doesn't have to be professional looking thumbnails. And I think that is one of the things that is kind of a disservice on YouTube, because when I see other artists doing thumbnail sketches of compositions, the thumbnails look good. The thumbnails don't have to look good. That's not a thing. Your finished product, fine, whatever. But the thumbnails can literally just be quick sketches. If you're trying to grasp colors, a photograph, or maybe some swatches off to the side, you know, of the exact colors that you see, and you could label it like 1 and then put 1, 2, 2. But they don't have to look professional or things that could easily be translated into stickers or another product. Like I see lots of artists showing their sketchbook, and they will have the finished thing, and they'll like, yeah, I did 3 compositions. Or 3 like thumbnails, but their thumbnails look really, really good. And I'm here to tell you they don't have to look like that. To get good at compositions, it's just put your pencil to the paper. Just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't get in your own way. Like, don't talk yourself out of it. Let go of the fear. They're meant to be messy. They're meant to be dirty. They're meant to be inaccurate. You're just trying to see shape and position. This is the shape of my subject matter. This is the position I'm going to put it on my page. That's all you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be any deeper than that. You don't have to pull out, you know, 3 or 4 different mediums to make sure that your thumbnails, like, okay, that's what it would look like mixed media, but it could be even simpler. Go as simple as possible. Start really easy with yourself, and then build up your compositions. Later, if you want to pick your 3 favorite and add some color and see what those 3 colors or, you know, 7 colors would look like in the 3 different layers of your composition. But you don't have to do that to all of them. It doesn't have to be a professional thing. So I would say, yes, hop on YouTube, see what other artists and creators are doing with their sketchbooks, especially if they're concentrating and talking about composition. But if their compositions look like little pieces of art, then that's what they are. They've just made miniature art pieces. They're not really like composition studies. And understand the difference of that. And please, please, please don't compare yours to theirs. Don't compare yours to mine. Understand they're all gonna look different. They're all gonna be different because we're all on a different path. We all have a different set of skills. We're all bringing a different set of history and a different level of practice to it. Please don't compare. Please just try. Just give yourself, you know, set a 1-minute timer. You can do 1 minute for 30 days of just throwing down 2 little quick composition doodles. And over the course of the month, you will get better. You will get better at layout. You'll get better at understanding what visually appeals to you and what visually appeals to everyone else. You can also get a second opinion. So you can take your page of thumbnails and you can go to somebody that isn't in the art field, that isn't trying to do art, and you can say which one of these is more interesting to you. And you can pull opinions. You can get the opinion of 3 people, and they can visually say, you know what, if all 3 like the branch, they like the context, consider having more context if that's what you're working on. Again, mine's kind of thematic, so it's just the single subject matter, so getting another person's opinion would kind of be moot. I already know what I'm doing, so it all matches. But if you're looking to make just a single finished piece, you know, you're working towards that gallery, that museum, or selling something on like a Threadless or Society6 or something, see which one people find the most dynamic and pull a couple opinions to help you find the stronger composition. If it's not something that you're seeing right away, if it's not something that's jumping out to you or you've been staring at it too long, step away. Step away from the page. Take an hour to go do something else, and then have it propped up. Have it propped up vertically, so when you walk in the room, it looks like a piece of hanging art, and walk right up to it and see which one jumps out at you. And it could be one that you don't care for, but there's a reason it's jumping out at you, and that's the one you need to focus on. I hope some of these tips and ideas help. I hope it gave you something to think about if compositions are something you want to work towards. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Pretty girl.